Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. The previous episode, we knocked out a few modifications to the Supra's fuel cell that realistically are features that should have been built into it initially, but at least now they're being implemented now. And we have just a little bit of additional work to do before it is completed again and ready to go back in the car. So I wanted to make some progress on the Mark II, but to roll it outside and start prepping the engine bay to be able to power wash it, we're not going to be able to do that today. As you can see, we have another blast of winter weather coming through here, and that isn't going to be the best option to get out there and power wash and everything else. So we'll keep going with the Mark IV's fuel cell and get some of the additional work finished on it and get it wrapped up for all intents and purposes. So where we left off, we got all of the welding done in terms of the fuel fill neck, the anti-slosh baffle, and I went ahead and made this little mounting plate for the fuel sending unit. So today we need to figure out how to make what is called a truncated pyramid or an incomplete pyramid for the sending unit to mount on top of, as the sending unit is, I believe, an 8-inch sending unit from the bottom side of the plastic head here to the bottom of the actual sending unit body there, whereas the fuel cell, as you can see here, is not that deep. So I need to calculate how high that needs to be raised off of the bottom of the fuel cell to leave myself 3/4 of an inch from the bottom of the sending unit's body, so that way we're not trying to read all the way to the bottom of the fuel cell, as they can get a little bit temperamental if you try to set them up that way. So as with anything like this, anything trying to figure out geometry or parts or anything along those lines, oftentimes the most difficult part is figuring out what the name of the piece that you're trying to look up is. And I entered in everything I possibly could in terms of search items, and then finally figured out what exactly it's called. And now we have this right here that is it's on the Spikes Calculators website, as you guys can see in the top left-hand corner there. And this is a calculator based off of truncated pyramids. You can see right here that you enter in a few different criteria here, and it will spit out all of the other information that you need right here. Additionally, at the bottom, you actually have the formulas. So rather than relying on a website that could at some point in time go down, I could actually save these formulas and start a geometric formula spreadsheet or Word document, so I have this information for the duration of time. So all that being said, I need to go and take some measurements of what the actual rise needs to be of the truncated pyramid, and at that point I can come over here and enter in the information in our little inputs import inputs section right here, and then it will spit out the numbers that I need here in the results category. So without further ado, let's go take some measurements, enter some numbers in, and get started on crafting this truncated pyramid. Well, as it turns out, math still works. And we tested the theory of mathematics with building this little trapezoid incomplete pyramid deal that I was talking about earlier. So the aim with this was to raise the fuel sending unit, or its mounting point, 3/4 of an inch, or raise the mounting point in such a location that the bottom of the sending unit is about 3/4 of an inch from the bottom of the fuel cell. So with that in mind, we have this block of aluminum that you can see is 750 thousandths, or 3/4 of an inch. And if I put that in the bottom of the cell, slide the sending unit into its home, we have just about 3/4 of an inch, and this was a very successful thing. So I don't know why it was so difficult for me to figure out how to do this. Maybe I'm just stupid, or I just couldn't get my brain wrapped around the concept of it. But thankfully I was able to find that online calculator, and now we have this piece that is ready to weld. So I'll weld it both inside and outside like I normally do, just to seal everything up and make everything as happy as it can be. And once we have all of the welding done, then it will be time to mark out where the hole needs to be punched in our new lid for the fuel cell. And once we have that done, we can weld our incomplete pyramid on top of it, and then the fuel cell is ready to go back in the car. So let's go ahead and get to welding and get this thing wrapped up. Our truncated pyramid is now completed. So it's welded on the outside, welded on the inside, and I'm going to leave the bolt holes as through holes and just use some thread sealant to seal those up, as we don't have a whole lot of thread engagement. The plate is 3/8 of an inch thick, and I'd rather have full engagement on these than cap the bottoms of them off and potentially not be able to get a fastener that will fit them appropriately. So have some really good ARP Teflon thread sealant that'll work perfectly for this, and all will be well. So now we're at the point where I can actually cut the hole in the new lid and get everything squared away here. So what I will do is, on each of the 4 panels, I'll mark center down on the bottom. I can align center up on the 4 legs of our little cross here, and that will give me an idea of where I need to cut the hole. Actually, it will just tell me where I need to cut the hole, and then we can get that all squared away and good to go. So let's go ahead and get to that, and before too long this whole thing will be wrapped up and ready to go back up in the car. All of the fabrication work on the tank comes down to this. So we have the new lid all tacked in place, we have the provisioning for the fuel sending unit in place, the nut welded for the rollover valve in place, we have the fill neck in place, and we have pretty close to a fabricated streetcar, race car, Supra fuel cell, fuel tank. And it's a mouthful of words right there, but the bottom line is we have a fuel cell ready to be finish welded with all the modifications done to it that I should have implemented when I was doing the initial construction on it. But that's no matter. We can't change the past. All that we can do is alter the present and hope for good in the future. So all this is tacked. It's all ready to weld, and I guess there's nothing else left to do other than to get to it. So let me get geared back up, and we can strike the arc. We can strike an arc rather, and get to welding this thing all back together.
You on repeat, you eyes, you on repeat, you on repeat, eyes, on repeat, you right what I need. You on repeat, you eyes, right what I need. Right what I need.
Fuel cell is finished and ready to be installed into the Supra. So you guys just saw me build this little wiring harness. It's just a simple signal and ground that comes off of the top of the sending unit. The sending unit is installed with gasket and Teflon paste on all of the bolts that are going in there. The rollover valve is Loctited in place with a Teflon washer under here. And the one thing that I did off camera is I put a second plate on the bottom side of all of the chassis mounts. And this is just to thicken this up without lowering the fuel cell down at all or changing its location. Just to provide a little bit more structure there, as I noticed that a couple of the mounting brackets, mounting tabs, were starting to bow a little bit just from the force, or the clamping force of being tightened down. So all of these are good to go. The fuel cell is good to go. So why don't we go ahead and put it back in the car. And now, after all the work on this fuel cell, it's time to fill it back up. So this is something I haven't done for a while to fill the car up, and that is to pop the gas door. So there goes the gas door. This is kind of neat. So loosen the fill cap, place it somewhere out of the way. And this is just the fuel that I drained out of the car, so we'll just put it right back in. So here goes nothing. Can't see right now, but I'm really hoping this isn't going on the floor. I don't see any. That's a good thing. Finish dumping the rest of this in here. This is pretty cool. This is how I should have built this in the first place, but most important thing is it's done now. That's quite a bit easier than trying to fill it through a false floor. Yeah, now that we could put fuel back in it, let's go ahead and thread the cap back on. And there we go. There's still a little bit of work to be done to completely finish this install, as I'll need to come in here and put some sort of a panel over top of where the old fuel fill was, but that isn't a big deal. I'll just rivet something in place, or who knows, I may even reuse these Zeus fasteners just so that way I have a way to get to the sending unit if anything ever happens with it. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but the journey is over for right now. So got a lot done, and I'm very happy with the progress that was made here. So you can maybe see, now it's super dark right now, but I have right here the little pigtail for the sending unit. So that will get connected to another little auxiliary harness that will run up to the front of the car, where it'll tie into the race pack and all of that. But that's a job for another day. It's late now, I need to get out of here, and let's go ahead and wrap this one up. So, as always, I'd like to thank you guys very much for coming along on this journey with me. And hopefully we don't have very many other episodes of redoing work or modifying parts that I should have built one way when I was initially building them. But hopefully you guys learned something with the surgery and the reconstruction of this fuel cell, as I know that I surely did. That the incomplete pyramid that I was working on, that really threw me for a loop in terms of the geometry necessary to make it happen. But I persevered, and hopefully you guys have learned how to do the same thing with your projects. Never give up. There's always a way to solve the problem with these things. They were built by humans for humans, so they can't be more complicated than a human mind can comprehend. But with the waxing poetic out of the way, and not to get any more philosophical, that'll be the end of this one. So as always, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and I will see you guys in the next episode.